Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lorenzo's channel of Awesome Madness. Today we're going to Venus in the show called KSP to Mars, which we are looking at episode 74. I have a feeling I bungled up the order of the introduction there. Doesn't matter. There are two main goals remaining in the KSP to Mars series now that we have gone to Mars. One is a return flight from Venus, well, a manned landing and return from Venus, and the second is the installation of a gravity lensing telescope at a maddening distance from the sun. The second bit we're not going to do today. Today we're shooting this off to Venus. What's hidden behind the shroud will remain a surprise until it's revealed. It will be propelled to Venus by two nuclear fusion fired thermal drives. That makes the transfer stage actually fairly light. It's only about 7 tons is the bit that lands, that's this, and then we have 77 tons for the interplanetary transfer bit. That will be lofted into low Earth orbit by this monstrosity of a thing, and we will now proceed with that. If you're one of those fine few folk that only watch the real solar system series I do and not the contracting one, you might be wondering what the hell is taking me so long making videos. Well, if you want the long explanation, I would ask that you check out the latest KSP contracting video, because there I ramble and talk about reasons and stuff and plans about that, and well, KSP contracting is a fun series as well, so you might want to check that out. In short, I don't have a house, I just have a computer and I stay at people's couches, and currently I'm living with my girlfriend, which is nice. But I don't have a place for myself set up at the moment, which I'm working hard for, so in the hopefully near future that should be sorted, and then, well, some stability will return and goodness will resume. For now, let's launch this up into space. It's a fairly simple setup. We have two core boosters here. They will ride this all the way to space, and the outer 6 columns, they will feed fuel into that center and then fall away. Now it is a little bit of a haphazard construction, and well, in testing several times it has disintegrated in the atmosphere, and what I've learned is that this bit here is the most important, where I'm just going to look at the nav ball and nothing else and keep that indicator pointing prograde. Now our fusion fired thermal upper stage has lots of delta V, about 15 kilometers per second if I recall correctly. That's more than enough for a Venus transfer, so the exact parameters of our orbit really don't matter that much. So all I'm going to do here is gaze at the nav ball. I'm also going to lock the gimbals on these engines. And whilst I did that, I might want to free them again. Yeah, that's gone wrong. I didn't pay attention to the nav ball for just a few seconds, and that made us do this. Okay, so we'll try that again. What I did and what I forgot is I set up action groups to lock the gimbals on the center stage, which is fairly important. Makes for a nice, rather more stable flight, and another action group to lock the air intakes. Yes, air intakes. Their function will become, ooh, oh dear, what's happening here? Their function will become obvious once we get to Venus. Let's see about actually closing them. Yeah, that's done, and the gimbals are now locked. And if I recall my testing, it took me many hours to come up with this rocket, so I'm hoping it will deliver a nice showing and work. It's taken me quite a couple of hours to design this lander, lots of testing on Earth, of course not quite representative for what we will encounter on Venus, but hey, it's the best we got. And what I found is that the gimbals on these center engines, they are very powerful and they are prone to induce wobble and oscillations that will, well, wreck a decent descent. What I was trying to say when things went horribly wrong and explodey is that basically all I need to do is keep this indicator, the attitude indicator, inside the prograde indicator, which is the direction vector, and if that happens we will exit the troublesomely thick part of the atmosphere pointing at about 20 to 30 degrees, and then we can be a little bit more generous with our maneuvering because there won't be a giant wall of air ready to kill us. Because now if we deviate too much from this vector, the aerodynamic stresses will explode. Well, they won't explode, but they will, well, catastrophically decelerate the rocket, which will then explode like so. Like so. Damn it, real solar system makes things hard. Let's try it with gimbals enabled for the steering here. Maybe I'd put in that gimbal locking thing for the upper bit. I don't know. I don't remember. The engineers must have been very, very drunk indeed. So we'll free the gimbal, but we'll lock the intakes because that's just extra drag that we can't use. Alright, thrust to weight ratio on liftoff is 1.2. You can see that we're not lifting off very quickly, but we will soon start to accelerate. And I sincerely hope we do make it this time around because, well, there is a big mission yet in store, and, well, things will take a long time if they go this slowly. There are many news things I wanted to talk to you about, tell you awesome projects happening in the world, but I've just 1 second ago I forgot all of them, so you're not going to get too much of that. Instead I'm just going to pay more attention to the nav ball. I could do this fairly reliably yesterday when I made it, but then of course I wasn't actually talking over it, which you'll be surprised to hear maybe makes things requiring concentration a fair bit harder. Probably that's why at the real space agencies they separate the astronaut and mission controller and press guy jobs fairly effectively. Yeah, we're dying again. Dying again. Wait, let me reset history. Right, history has been reset and everything so far is looking nominal. We're breaching 15 kilometers, 450 meters per second, have a decent angle going, and acceleration is just about inching over 2 Gs. Patbus Kerman, fated hero, will do well, is my prediction for this mission so far. Look at that. That's mission control on the ground. The rocket is performing well. Look at these plumes of fire. I know the SLS rocket parts have been released a fair amount of time back. They're pretty old already, but I do like their effect. They look nice and meaty. Well, they just look like awesome rockets. Past the 35 kilometer mark now, and that means that the air is fairly thin up here. We will be ditching the fairing rather soon, and then I'll show and explain to you what we have to play with on Venus. And it also means that the steering becomes a little bit less critical, and I'm going to lock the gimbals. Yeah, because, well, here the rocket tends to oscillate a lot, and I haven't figured out exactly why, but locking the gimbals fixed it, so it was probably the gimbals' fault. Look, it's happening now. Our rocket is of course a little bit of a weird structure with 2 pods. That's because here we couldn't mount a decoupler. The engineers wouldn't let me do that. And in case you haven't recognized it from here, oh, I just popped it on the screen. It's a 2.5 meter nuclear fired turbo fan. Oh, actually it's not nuclear fired, but I'll explain that now. Look, there we go, the boosters, and here we have our Venus lander. Let's examine that. Well, let's put this on a course, actually lock in the SAS and then examine it. Of course, now that I've disabled the gimbals, I might need to actually re-enable them for a second. It's fairly hard to steer the rocket, but as you may see, it behaves oddly. It behaves oddly. So I hope that we can lock it here. We do need to get some altitude going because, well, we are just about 1 kilometer per second short of orbital delta V requirements, and the rest will have to come out of the thermal stage. While it's not exactly a pushover, it's not exactly a powerhouse either. So we'll need a bit of time for that. It's got a thrust to weight ratio of about a half. So for now though, let's lock that, lock the gimbals, and well, the rocket really doesn't stand a chance, and the SES doesn't really do anything either. I don't exactly know why, but this thing controls horribly. Horribly, horribly, horribly. And I really want to explain to you the splendor of the Venus lander and ascender, but I don't dare do it before we're on a stable vector, because, well, you know, things are liable to go horribly wrong this mission. No, we revised history. That didn't happen. No, this mission is a pillar of success so far, and we're about halfway to orbital velocity right now. Still requiring manual control on these two big booster rockets, but that's fine because yours truly is an excellent pilot. Up here in the top left of the screen we can see that the transfer window to Venus happens in about 3 days, so our guy Batbus has a little bit of time to get reacquainted with the systems. What we have from front to rear, from front to stern, from prow to bow. I'm not good with sailor speak. I'm not sure if that was correct. We have a heat shield to help with the Venusian atmosphere, which rumor has it is terrible. We have separatrons to kick the spent heat shield away, although they have been known to burn up in re-entry themselves, so they might be useless. We have a aerodynamic nose cone under the heat shield. We have an SES system because this whole thing is the lander, and it's not that stable. We need RCS and SAS to keep our orientation with the heat shield pointed forward. That's the biggest danger in the mission, actually tipping over and dying. We have our seat for Batbus. We have a small rocket tank with an even smaller engine that will serve for the final orbital insertion burn. And then we have a slightly bigger fuel tank with just liquid fuel. We have a microwave thermal power receiver, and this thing is key to getting out of the Venusian atmosphere. Doing so using regular propulsion is a nightmare because the atmosphere is so thick. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to be using the atmosphere. We're going to scoop it up with these air scoops, and we're going to pump gigawatts of power into it that will have been received with this thermal receiver, and then we're going to eject it out the back through this thermal turbojet. In theory, that should give us infinite delta V as long as we are within an atmosphere. Now, just give me a second, we need to activate the nuclear reactors. Radiators out, reactor on, reactor 2 on, and let's separate. We are up and away, almost at least. Right, these two radiators, by the way, do not provide enough cooling for these two reactors, but I will tell you what is a secondary awesome way of cooling a reactor. It's by pumping rocket fuel through it and exhausting it out the back. So as long as the engines are actually firing, we won't overheat. And if we shut down the engines and keep the reactors on, we won't overheat immediately. These radiators will buy us some time. But keeping the reactors on at full clip, keeping the reactors on at full clip whilst not thrusting is not a sustainable option here. Fortunately, we won't need to. We have our small fission reactors here to provide electricity for plasma containment, and well, these radiators just serve as a buffer for those times that we want to keep the reactors on but not eject rocket fuel through them. Okay, back to the lander. Venusian atmosphere scooped up here, ejected with thermal superpowers out the back, will make us go upwards. Of course, that will cease to work once we are actually out of the atmosphere, which is the point of ascending, and that's why we have this tank of rocket fuel. That will then be put through the same engine, heated by the same microwave thermal power receiver, and this is capable of about 2 kilometers per second at a ludicrous amount of G's. Test dummies have been known to explode under those G's, so once we switch to the liquid fuel here, we'll need to throttle back drastically. The atmospheric fired turbojet with the fuel fired turbofan, turbojet, I don't know the proper terms for that, should get us almost all the way to orbit, definitely to space. And then this bit here, this conventional small rocket on the capsule, will serve to take Batbus back up to Venusian orbit. Now, of course, there's nothing on this ship that will take him back to Earth. So this is in fact a two-part mission. The ship that's going to get him hasn't been designed or built yet. He's very confident that the engineers will do it though. And that means that, well, that will be a second video if this one goes well. Also, of course, that ship that is going to power, that's going to retrieve Batbus, will need to carry some big honking reactors and microwave transmitter dishes, because this counts on having copious amount of input power, and that's it. So we need something to provide that input power. So if all goes well, we'll have this thing sitting on the Venusian surface. Of course, it will descend using parachutes. That's something that the thick atmosphere is ideal for. This thing sitting on the Venusian ground, then the big honking space bus that will take Batbus home will fly overhead, beam power into this receiver that will nuclear blast, well, it's actually not a nuclear blast then, but that will thermalize the Venusian atmosphere and use it for propulsion. An ambitious plan, and I'm not quite sure it will succeed, but I thought it was a nice take on the conventional way of just using rockets. Right, and through all this blathering, we are almost in Earth orbit. You can see these engines are hideously effective. We haven't even used this tank. Right, well, this tank was supposed to flow into here as well. It's not, but we can do that manually should the need ever arise. What I failed to tell you is that these pylons, they will remain attached to the Venus lander through atmospheric entry, hoping to help with orientation. There's parachutes attached here, and the drag from them hopefully will help keeping the heat shield pointing forward, because in Earth atmosphere that presented quite a few problems, and well, I'm very, very afraid that Batbus will just compact and burn before he even gets to land on Venus. Well, now that we're almost in orbit, let's test our experiment suite. We have the magnetosphere. We'll transmit all of that down. No, we'll not do that. Gravity scan, temperature, magnetosphere. Wait, didn't I put the press mat sensor in there? Oh, that didn't work here. The action group, of course, also has the press mat sensor, but that doesn't work in space. Right, our apoapsis is at 1,000 kilometers, our periapsis is at 175. That's outside of the atmosphere, so we can shut down the engines. We will now see our waste heat creeping up. Look, there we go. But we will shut down the radiators. We'll shut down the reactors, pardon, and that will then be fixed. The waste heat is now going back down again. So these reactors, these radiators provide plenty of buffer. We will not explode in a fusion fireball. Right, time to plan Venus insertion. Boom! Through the magic of pause and play in the recording, Venus insertion has been planned. 2 burns, one of 1600 meters per second in solar orbit and one of 3.3 kilometers per second right here in low Earth orbit, that we should perform in 57 minutes. So let's get the heading straight. Actually, let's skip over all of that, because we want this mission to focus on the spaceship and the exciting Eve landing. I've explained to you how the nuclear drives work. Sort of. Just assured you that they won't explode, hopefully. And, well, we'll just get to Venus in about 160 days. So, see you then. Woohoo! Here we are, about an hour later, but you didn't have to soldier through that. We're rendezvousing with Venus, and something has come up, at least in my mind. Also, did I leave the nukes on? No, I didn't, but maybe they turned themselves off after overheating. Oh, doesn't matter. What came up is that I don't know the atmospheric properties of Venus. I know it's thick, and I know the gravity is comparable to Earth's gravity. That means that the atmosphere will extend a bit higher than Earth's, but exactly how high and what is a good altitude to shoot for re-entry, I haven't a clue. So I think what I'm gonna do is establish orbit at 300 kilometers. Look, there we have purple Venus. I'm going to establish orbit at about 300 kilometers and then just lower that incrementally and see what happens. Wow, this planet is shimmering. Something is up with that. And let's actually do some science, because I think we'd never had crews over here. Oh, we did. We did have crews over here. That means we probably have an EVA report as well. Oh yeah, of course they have Festus. That one infamously crashed and burned. Well, let's have a science suite anyway. Cosmic rays are purple. We probably should collect these science readings. Gravity scan. Yeah, so let's actually go ahead and collect those. As much as we like to just proceed straight to the landing part, at least that's what I want to do, we do also have a scientific duty to collect science. Be careful not to come too close to the nuclear piles. Bad bus. Is it still... I still can't... I thought that was fixed. Still can't take science out of magnetometers. Okay then, doesn't matter. We're here for the prestige more than the science anyway. And well, let's carry on forwarding time to that burn point. I didn't actually fine-tune the approach from interplanetary space because I'm a lazy astronaut, and that means that this burn is now unreasonably big. We're not going to come closer than 60,000 kilometers, give or take a few thousand. So that's 3 kilometers per second. And fortunately it doesn't matter much because we have the delta V to spare. Let's actually put this fuel into the main tanks, because these things are going to serve for drag, but we don't need them to be extra heavy. We just need to find our marker. I don't really like how this receiver is always glowing. It's not receiving any power, it shouldn't glow. But then again, that's just nitpicky complaining. Okay, nuclear reactors on, thrusters on. This burn will take 10 minutes, which I'll mercifully skip over. So, see you in 1 second. Oh dear, it's crisis time. I thought to establish a circular orbit at 300 kilometers, so the planned maneuver here would do that, sort of. But we have now entered the atmosphere at 500 kilometers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to... Let's see, how much drag are we experiencing? Not quite any yet. I was thinking either use the engines to slow us down completely, or just attempt an aero braking pass at 338 kilometers. Could be just what we need. We are coming in from very high, so we are going super fast. I think I'm going to use the engines to brake until we are going to encounter, well, if we encounter measurable drag, that is, because of course the upper atmosphere, same as on Earth, is going to be really thin here. Soon as we encounter like measurable drag, maybe the shearing off of these panels will be a nice indicator. Then we will turn around and deploy the heat shield. Otherwise, we will use engine burns and ignore the fact that we are apparently already inside the atmosphere. One thing I was trying to do, one thing I came up with, and which we will do if this pass turns out to, well, not lead to an entry, is use, well, at least check to see if this Venus probe, which I think was established here when the atmospheric properties were very different, because that is inside the atmosphere apparently. We will use this probe to see if it has any fuel left from ages gone past, and sample the atmosphere with that. Destructively sample, that is, because it will then of course crash and burn. That will give us a rough idea of the characteristics and will lead to, well, at least the ability to guesstimate a nice entry vector. We're still working on a 0 kilonewton drag number, even for these radiators. Yeah, so at least 350 kilometers is still sort of a safe altitude. We will be dipping down to 320. So apart from the fact that the game counts that as being in the atmosphere, we should be safe. Let's also open up these air intakes and never close them again, because they might do some drag as well. We have no oxygen, but we do have atmosphere, so if we eventually get the orbiting power station in range, we would be able to get power. 320 on the periapsis. We're now at 340, and we are experiencing a smidgen of drag. So let's, I think pegging 300 kilometers as like the practical upper limit for the atmosphere wasn't that unreasonable, because here we are experiencing 0.001 kilonewton of drag. That's not enough to break up a ship or do any radical changes to the orbit, but it is enough to, well, you know, be in the atmosphere and slowly decay. So we're going to fire the engines until we are at a 300 by 250 or something orbit. Although 50 kilometers might be too aggressive a dip. I want to slow down very gently. Now, something horrible has happened. We are orbiting like on the Terminator for dawn. No, it's actually not that terrible. If we enter here, we should at least have some sunlight. Let's try a science pass. All this has been done before. Crew report. Yeah, all this has been done before. We really need to get down into the atmosphere and down onto the surface to, well, to get new science done. We could also keep the engines firing and try to just slow down, scrub as much of the speed as we can through engine burning, but then that will aggressify the corridor. I still haven't worked out for myself if I think that's a good idea or not. Because on the one hand, you scrub off so much of the speed that it seems like a no-brainer, but then you are still fairly high up in the above the planet, and if you then fall down, you go a lot slower than you would otherwise, but you are going really steep, so you're going to hit thick atmosphere really quickly. Whereas if you do it on pure aero braking, it starts out so gradual and kinda naturally leads into thicker atmosphere as you're going slower. Now of course you can emulate it with engines. I mean, if you keep your engines firing all the way to the ground, you've done a fine landing and you didn't need any atmosphere. But the burst deceleration while still in space and then entering the atmosphere, I think that's actually a really bad idea with an atmosphere that resembles a brick wall at about, what was it, 50 bars, 80 bars, something silly like that. We are going to descend into that. Our apoapsis is now a mere 4,000 kilometers. That was ludicrously high before, so that is at least nice. And we are in for another pass, I think. Well, yeah, I can say that with certainty. We are experiencing 0.005 kilonewtons. I don't think we actually need to retract the radiator yet for that. However, if we lose it, we will pretty much immediately lose propulsion, because these reactors will have to be scrammed. And that would mean it would take a lot of years to slow down. Yeah, tough call, tough call. I could retract one of them. Yeah, I'll retract both of them actually, because I don't need them. I just now need to make sure that the reactors are off quickly, and otherwise, even if, well, I don't know why I'm making a big fuss, even if the things overheat, they just shut down, so that's not that big a deal really. Right, so we're at 7 kilometers per second relative to the surface. Venus is just a trifle smaller than Earth, so the speeds will be comparable, if not quite identical. So we have periapsis of 280 kilometers. Our drag is now 0.0067 at 290 kilometers. So we should go a little bit lower. We should go a little bit lower. Of course, once we separate these things, they are irretrievably separated. These are throwaway nuclear engines. And we actually don't have any propulsion apart from RCS on the lander, so I want these big nuclear drives to put us on a final entry corridor before jettisoning them. Okay, so that's 450 kilometers apoapsis and a periapsis of 250. I think that's good. We're 280 now. We are encountering macroscopic drag, like 0.01. We're gonna go 40 kilometers lower. It is an exponential thing. And then we're going slightly higher again. I think this could very well lead to an entry on this go. Now the question is, what do I do with my engines? I mean, if I start to face forward and pop the heat shield, if I then ditch the engines, they will crash into me. And that's not very nice. I mean, now I'm at least at a level where I can RCS away from them. Yeah, there's actual drag. We're going to ditch the engines and fly away from them a little bit now that we still can. And we are going to inflate the heat shield. So, bye-bye nuclear engine. Actually, I did something quite stupid. I paid absolutely no attention to where we are going to land. If that's going to be a sea or not. So that's fairly stupid. Then again, it's really hard to tell. Probably because of all the dust storms. Right, okay, so what does the ship look like now? Are we facing the wrong direction? I think we are. Control from here. We are facing in the prograde. We're facing towards the prograde heading though. Oh no, we're not facing in the wrong direction. I don't know why I thought that. Oh, because of the receding drives. No, we are traveling in the right direction. Heat shield is providing 5 kilonewtons of deceleration. I think that's about as gradual as we're gonna get. The air intakes are open. Oh yeah. These reactors are now offline. They don't serve a function anymore. They overheated and stopped. They are still on these pylons just to provide drag, just to make the ship a little bit bigger on the rear. And there's parachutes attached here. Let's see about minimum pressure, 0.01. Are we at that level yet? Oh yeah, according to the sensors, we're not in space. Or we are in space. So let's see if we can actually get the reading. Toggle display in vacuum. Okay. I wonder what's providing this drag then. And I want to just toggle these parachutes because we will need them to... do I want that? Let's see. The next step is separating the heat shield, ditching these pylons, which will then be attached to parachutes so they will drop away, and moving the heat shield out. And then we can pop our parachutes here, which will lead to our landing upright. Yes, that is something we want. Also, I sincerely hope we're not going to be landing in some kind of ocean. And those look like islands, so that's a possibility. That would suck if Bad Bus were to just be marooned in an ocean. That would absolutely suck. Okay, we can trust the RCS system to at least try and keep us here. I forgot a fairly important part of this mission. I packed batteries, but no solar panels. Now it's not that important. We have a lot of charge, and the only things that consume it are these reaction wheels. And we do intend to bring Patbus back home, so we don't actually need to transfer so much data, and even if we want to, the stores should be sufficient, but our electricity from now on is incredibly finite. We should remember that. Right, the game has decided we're going to enter. This is empty, this is just a radiation hazard. We will ditch that soon. I want to know what the pressure is. It's not in a vacuum. Behave yourself. Okay, I'm going to do a science run. Do I need to like manually delete these datas? Review data. Reset it. And gravity scan. Oh yeah, I need to do it whilst we're actually in the atmosphere. Okay. I want to pop those parachutes, see what happens. Okay, they are popped. As soon as we encounter a 0.01 pressure, they will start to provide drag, which is hopefully going to outweigh this drag, because this heat shield is providing a super large amount of drag, and this is a fairly lengthy vessel, and it really wants to turn around, and we can't have that because then it will explode, obviously. So we're going to use the RCSs to stop it from doing that. Our apoapsis is now 280 kilometers, and our periapsis is already underground, so we are going in. I hope actually it's not too gradual now. I don't know. It's appearing really gradual. So let's hope that everything is gonna go well. The drag is increasing, almost 20 kilonewtons. That's still not a large number, not at all. But that will soon start to increase more. We have 7 kilometers per second we need to get rid of, and we will do so probably fairly high up in the atmosphere because it's so thick down lower. Also, we need to remember the numbers, because for our ascent in the uncertain future, it will be important to know when these things will start to not take in atmosphere. 250 kilometers is too high anyway. Oh, I just thought there's a big chance, because this upper stage is not that super powerful. There is a high chance that we will need to perform our pad bus picking up rendezvous below 500 kilometers. It's not a problem, but it will force the game to run at 1 to 4 times time acceleration, so that could be a lengthy mission. Well, let's see if the landing works out first. That's the most important thing now. 30 kilonewtons, that should be able, because this lander, even though it's big, is fairly light. It's only about 7 tons. Oh, that's not counting these pylons. These weigh a bit, so let's put this at 12 tons, which is not a lot. 30 kilonewtons is already, well, decelerating us. Let's say a kilonewton for a ton is like blah, blah, blah. We're at about half a G now, I think. Just under half a G. Can we ask the game for that? Well, it's at 3.9, but that's from some other moment in the mission. Okay, 250 kilometers, and we are now starting to encounter a little bit more atmosphere. The game probably still thinks we are... Oh no, the game thinks we are actually not in space anymore. Alright then. Boom, we got some science. Now we just need to get the science from the low atmosphere if we ever manage to get there. I don't think any manned vessel, the only manned vessel was the Hephaestus, like 20 episodes ago. I don't know exactly, but in the past. And that was a DT Vista inertial fusion drive, and the plan there was to just decelerate until we were going so slow that we didn't need a heat shield, and that failed spectacularly as it burned up in the atmosphere. It didn't go slow enough. The thrust to weight ratio was overestimated a bit, and it needed too much space to slow down. Right, 70 kilonewtons. I'm gonna put a quick save here because I don't want to be able to... Oh shit, no, I shouldn't have done that. Because the inflatable heat shield doesn't work after a quick save. Okay, we have one shot. I was gonna say I don't want to be able to alter the entry vector because that just sort of happened and would be weird to alter, but I do want to be able to, I don't know, try again if I do some horrible pilot error, but that appears to be fairly impossible now because then the heat shield wouldn't work. Okay, we're getting heating effects. We're getting 100 kilonewtons. I'm gonna focus on the nav ball to SAS assist this thing into a straight trajectory that will keep the heat shield pointed into the atmosphere. We are now at least slowing down at a decent rate. I want these parachutes to deploy so that they help in maintaining the attitude. I'm not sure if that's a silly idea. I wanted the drogues for that more than I wanted the regular ones, but they didn't attach radially, so yeah, that didn't work. We are now rocking 200 kilonewtons. That's about a third of a fusion thermal rocket. So yeah, there's that. We're at about 1 G now. That's still very manageable for Patpas. The atmosphere is thickening pretty rapidly here, because even though we are decelerating pretty quickly, the force on the heat shield is increasing. We're almost at 300 kilonewtons. I'm still finding it fairly manageable to control the attitude of the re-entry vehicle. Those pylons with the parachutes to keep the stability, the parachutes by the way that haven't deployed yet, I had not tried them in Earth's atmosphere. It might happen, I hope that if the parachutes deploy too explosively, that they will just rip off the pylons at their separators, that they won't like tear something else in half. I was counting on that. We are getting some overheating on the parachutes actually, so they are doing something. We're at 5.5 kilometers per second, still a long way to go. 500 kilonewtons now, that's equals to about 3 Gs of deceleration. I don't want to stare away from the nav ball to check the monopropellant levels. I'm manually controlling the attitude here. Right, that's the parachutes burning off. We don't care too much about that. We're at 180 kilometers now. The separatrons are now burning off, which is fine by me. We don't need them. Oh, we're losing stores of monopropellant, which could be a big problem because, well, I'm using it to control the attitude, but I think there's also monopropellant hidden behind the heat shield. I'm running into trouble now. The attitude is drifting away from the prograde, But it seems as though it's somewhat stable at least. Maybe I'm doing this all for nothing and it would be fine on its own. No, 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 it's drifting, it's drifting. 800 kilonewtons, 800 kilonewtons. We are burning up, our ship is burning up, but we're going at 3 kilometers per second. The heat shield is still taking the brunt of the deceleration. We're at 5 Gs now, 3 kilometers per second. Everything is on fire. Full thrust on the reaction control system. Our deceleration force is now decreasing. It is at 880 kilonewtons, 5 Gs, but dropping. We're only at 2.5 kilometers per second relative to the surface, still at 160 kilometers up. Everything is not burning anymore, which is great. Thanks so much for that. I'm gonna take stock and see what we lost on our vessel in just a bit. We're still going at 1.8 kilometers per second, which could still be very problematic. It does appear as though some things have been lost, but on the whole I think we're okay. I mean, we're turning around now. Oh, no way! No way, we lost the ascent vehicle. We should have ditched the heat shield. No way. I mean, we'll probably land safely with this umbrella. We should have ditched the heat shield. Then we would have turned around now and just have been fine. Oh god, no. Oh, that sucks. I mean, Bad Bus is going to be fine. He even still has parachutes, for God's sake. 4 of them. Which means he will be fine, but he will not have anything resembling a useful escape vehicle. Right. That's terrible. Sorry, Bad Bus. Well, let's at least get rid of the heat shield then. There goes that. And let's deploy those parachutes. Bad Bus will be safe. And it will be a hideously long time until we're actually landed. So I will cut that out for you and we'll reevaluate then. See you on the ground. There we are, about an hour later. Oh my god, landing on Venus is so tedious. But look, it's awesome. We're in some kind of weather storm system purple soup. I had resorted to looking at the internal view radar altimeter because I can see nothing. We're at 3.5 kilometers now, so it should start to work soon. And we are heading down at a sedate 8.4 kilometers. I cut all but 3 of the parachutes because otherwise it would take too long. Look at that. Oh, there we have the ground emerging from under the storms. And I still can't work out if that's liquid or solid. That glare leads me to believe it could be liquid. But I don't know if that means anything. We're at 2 kilometers now. Ah, look at that. I think we're coming down over liquid because the radar altimeter is exactly the same as the actual altimeter. That's a snag. That's not very nice. The map view is completely useless with this. Oh, actually, nah, there is some difference. But we will see how the liquid acts here on Venus. If we do splash down, and it doesn't even matter that we didn't use the rocket because the lander isn't liquid rated. It will make any rescue for Bad Bus exceedingly difficult. It could mean the end of the awesome thermal fired atmosphere scooping escape vehicle. What happened? No way, it burned up on re-entry now? Aw, man. Well, Remember that quick save we had earlier when the heat shield was gonna fail? Let's see what that does. Ah man, that is horrible. Where did that speed come from? Oh, that was the parachute deploying fully at 4 times. Ah man. Damn it. That is a weird interaction. That probably caused like the capsule to jerk, and that 1 frame speed increase, because here it reads at 65 meters per second, in the super thick soupy air, made deadly reentry think it burned up or something. Oh man, that's terrible. Let's see what the quick save does. Oh dear. Oh yeah, back into stress mode. We're re-entry, Venus Razor. Here we are, 230. Look at that! It is deployed. Oh shit, that's amazing. Okay, remember, we have to look forward to a harrowing re-entry. That is possible, and then I'm going to keep the pylons attached. Then as soon as I lose control and it flips around, I have to detach the heat shield. Okay, first... No! I thought I still had to do the parachutes. Okay, well, we'll try that again. Okay, welcome to cheat station of Cheaty Town in Cheatland, but I don't care anymore because strange things do happen. Alright, then. But man, I'm gonna need to do this in a hurry when it happens. What happens if I mash a couple of stages too far? I'm gonna put this like way... I mean, this is the only critical decoupler. This is the only one I can't fix by turning off or on engines. So that's going all the way to the top. If I spam a little bit too much, worst thing that happens is that these parachutes also deploy. And that would be pretty terrible, because then I would have to cut them. What I want to do is have, after the harrowing bit is over, I want to float down through the soup with the whole rocket and not on parachutes, because I don't want to have that take an hour again, as it took that long. Also, I'm gonna try a hands-off approach where, because it did appear that the thing was somewhat stable on its own. So I'm going to try to see what happens if I don't fight the RCS controls all the way down. Well, that means I can just spend my days monitoring this ship. So far the SES and stuff are doing a great job. Are these parachutes actually deployed? They are, but they don't do anything because it's too early for them. Right, these things are helping with the drag somewhat, but here the things are gonna burn. I might want to rotate a little bit. No, now they're just both burning. Okay, hands-off approach, hands-off approach. I'm not going to even try and do things. Okay, these parachutes are starting to burn off. I might have to rotate them to the other side. What happened here? What happened here? Okay, hands-on control. Hands-off control is a myth. It doesn't work. Hands-on control. Yes, hands-on control. Hands-off control? No. What did we lose? We lost parachutes. That means that if these parachutes now ever start to do something, that's going to be trouble. I don't know what this is. This is Separatrons burning. Parachutes are burning from the rear. Everything is burning. The graphics are going all weird. Okay, okay, okay. Full on the controls. Hands. Come on. Control, control. Control, control. Control, control, control. Separatrons are now burning off. We're now decelerating really quickly. Separating the heat shield. Everything has burned and exploded. Okay, that didn't go as well as it could have. That didn't go as well as it could have. But it was the aerodynamic forces that broke the lander apart, not even the heating. Because surprisingly, the capsule is doing well at this speed even. So we're gonna try that again. Because I want... Okay, we're gonna try hands-on control all the way. Because hands-off control is a stupid myth. We're not gonna bother with these parachutes. In fact, we're not even gonna bother with the pylons. I'm not convinced they do anything useful. And all they do is burn. So, bye. So, bye. Oh! Yeah, that is what would happen. Sorry about that. Nice. Alright, now then we are with just the ship. Air intakes are open for some extra drag. And here we go, re-entering again. And now I know that one spacebar will separate the heat shield. Hands-on controls. Full control leading into this horrible deceleration, which will probably end up over liquid anyway, which will then cause us to crash. Fortunately, the thick atmosphere will allow these wings to work, so as long as I stay on top of the hands-on controls here, things should work out. We're at 210 kilometers. Deceleration will probably... Maybe we can try and get some lift going, where we don't actually crash down as fast. Are we lifting? I have no idea how to check. Oh, like that! Yay! We're getting lift. Like 1 kilonewtons worth. That's not enough to be excited about. But we're just gonna dip under 200 kilometers soon. And then it's 5 kilometers per second yet to scrub, but we only realistically need to get rid of about... No, we need to get rid of all of it, because otherwise we can't turn around. We can only... I mean, if we're gonna turn around whilst going faster than, say, 500 meters per second, the aerodynamic forces are going to rip the ship apart. So I'm going to need to keep the thing steady until we're going slow enough to just say screw it and toss it in the trash. Oh, something is burning. What is burning? The whole screen is burning. Why is the whole screen burning? What just burned off? Was it a wing? If it was a wing, we're screwed. It doesn't feel like we're screwed yet. It's getting harder to control. We can still manage it. We're decelerating at a good 5 Gs, and I have not a lot of trouble keeping the attitude indicator inside the pro grade one. I am constantly needing to adjust to the right, but I did bring some RCS. Oh no, most of the RCS was on the pylons that we ditched. But no matter, I need it anyway. I don't dare check the reserves, so I'm not going to be frugal with it. I'm just going to hope that it lasts. 2 kilometers per second now. G-forces are actually diminishing. It looks like we may have done it. We're still going fast enough to just break up, but the control is definitely getting easier. I mean, we are now falling quite rapidly into thicker air, but we are going properly slow now. It does seem we may have just done it. The stabilizing pylons in the end only serve to destabilize us. And I will remind you that if we land in an untenable spot, there's nothing we can do, because whilst we're carrying rocket fuel, we don't have a power source to fire this thermal receiver. Oh yeah, we could separate everything and fire this rocket, but that has about 1 kilometer per second of delta V, which isn't enough to do anything useful with. Right, I dare say we're out of the woods. We are pretty safe now. We are just coasting down. Oh, look at that. We had plenty of monopropellant remaining. We are now just coasting down on our heat shield. What happens if I turn off the RCS and the stabilization system? I mean, if we can stabilize with the heat shield down, then we can just leisurely wait until everything is fine. Oh look, there are the crazy UFO clouds. I need to get rid of that mod somehow. Our electric charge is still doing fine. That means we can send a round of science datas home. Yeah, okay. We already had this. We can send this home. 12% of 10 science. That's 1 science point for the boys at home. Well, I hope they're happy with that. Right, we're currently traveling at 300 meters per second, which is really slow. Actually, that's still Mach 1. That's not really slow, but compared to orbital speed, it really is slow. And it appears as though we have made it. We have made it. And now the super long wait can start again until we're at the surface. That will be amazing. One thing is for sure, I am going to not time warp past the 500 meter mark when these parachutes are supposed to fully deploy. But I'm also not going to deploy them before 1 kilometer because oh my god, does it take long if there's parachutes involved. You know, how much drag is this heat shield currently getting? It's 140 kilonewtons. This is just 1. So I wonder if I remove the heat shield now. I mean, the Separatrons in the end, they didn't burn off completely. They could probably separate us from the heat shield, but we would start falling a lot faster. Maybe I could separate out the parachutes, that if things go too fast, then I can just deploy like 2 parachutes and not all 4 of them. That means that I can also cut them again and still save parachute capacity for later. Yeah, we're gonna try that. We're gonna get rid of our heat shield if the spacebar wants to work. We're going to prepare the RCS system. Oh, look at that. We don't have to work to turn around. Okay, heat shield, goodbye. Now we're spinning. Okay, RCS, I want to maintain a reverse attitude. Not a reverse attitude, but I want to point upwards with the capsule. One thing is for sure, we're not gonna be able to point sideways. So if I manage to control it the other way, then it should stay upright. I mean, that doesn't really matter. I have parachutes to do this. Let's actually deploy 2 of them, because I really want to land in the correct orientation. Of course, now the danger here is that they will suddenly increase in drag a lot, which will still horribly murder the rest of the capsule. I mean, that's a problem. I think it's these wings that are to blame. They are just generating so much lift, which is odd. But then again, can't really blame them. Our electric charge is running out fast. I mean, we don't really need electricity and stuff to maneuver, but some would be nice. If we could manage to save some. Oh, we transmitted a lot of science data, didn't we? Okay. I'm using RCS now to turn us in the right direction, but it really doesn't seem as though we are going to be able to switch that out. Oh well, we're still going down at 135 meters per second, and I think the slower we go, the more correct our orientation is going to be. No, that's silly. One thing that this does do is it increases the drag, which increases the time that I am going to have to wait as well, which is horrible. Okay, everything is horrible. I'm going to skip over the rest of this agonizing wait. It will be a long time again. See, we're still 66 kilometers over the surface, and we are just going to spiral down ever so slowly. I'm just going to deploy the other chutes as well for maximum horribleness. Does it even matter? I want the thing to face... Yeah, there's nothing to it. We're gonna drift down like this until the parachutes deploy at 500 meters, and then it will be snapped upright, which will probably tell the deadly re-entry guys that we've burnt up. But we'll find out how that goes in about 100 million hours. So see you then. Alright, there we are, approximately 1 million years later, while we have now descended through the Venusian atmosphere. 2,000 meters remain, and yeah, that's exactly the same as it was before. So we're probably over some water. I am going to crank back the time acceleration because that was pretty catastrophic in the past. And why not, for good measure, I'm going to deploy the landing legs. Oh shit. One of them has burned off. Well, that's a bother. Alright. That means I'm going to retract the landing legs, and we would have to land on the turbojet, which isn't actually that much of a... It looks big and sturdy. But it's going to be dunked in liquid methane or whatever the legs here are made out of. So far the mission is not a resounding success, but we have never gotten a crew member to go down this far before. So let's transmit his experience home at the very least. That's nice, and that is also draining our power. We're at 800 meters now, and I'm not sure what to do about this. If Bad Bus survives down to the surface but ends up in a vessel that won't be able to return, because getting to him would be extremely tough, because I have no way to travel over the surface of Venus really, especially if he's in the water. That would be an incredible engineering challenge to build something that will enter here safely. Oh, look at that, the sun is so far away. That's kind of pretty actually. That would land on... Oh, look at that! We are facing the right side up. This actually works. Oh, that's wonderful. We would be able to land if only we were overland. Oh, that's galling. That's... everything working out perfectly fine, after a few tries that is, but because of the planetary cloud cover, yeah, let's chalk it up to that, we actually land over some kind of horrible ocean. I suppose that's what that is one of the things that exploration will definitely be about, but doesn't make it any... Oh! Right. So... exceeded G-force tolerance this time. Right, so time warping really isn't allowed. I did make another quick save. That's testing the limits of how long I'll wait for Venusian descents. Also, parachutes apparently don't stay saved. Aerodynamic failure? What broke off? Oh, this thing broke off? Okay, that doesn't matter. And now I have to wait again for a million years. Also the parachutes, they didn't survive the quick loading. So let's see. Will aerodynamics alone suffice to slow us down? It does make the descent a little bit quicker. And we're gonna try, this will be the last time we'll try this. Because Bad Bus will have to go out on EVA, and hold on to the ladder and then repack the chutes so they can be redeployed. Yeah, that's true. That's the way it's gonna be. And I think it all comes down to whether or not he will be able to hold on to the ladder strongly enough. We are traveling at about 50 meters per second through a very soupy atmosphere. I don't think he will be able to do that, honestly. So that means we're probably nosediving into the ocean now. But hey, we still have 7 kilometers to go. Look, the air is going to get twice as thick yet, so hey, we might end up going really, really slow after all. This is a horrible combination. It takes super long to get down. The game punishes you for time warping at inopportune moments, and yeah, I don't really like that. But I do like that my design kinda worked. I don't think that we are going to slow down enough to survive by just the air. Bad Bus, however, might. So we're going to try and EVA him. Oh god. Cut the parachute, repack the parachute. He isn't actually holding on, he's being pushed up against the rocket. So cut parachute, repack the chute. Cut the chute and repack it. Cut the chute and repack it. Oh, get in there. Come on, get in there. Get in there. Get in there. Parachutes. Parachutes. Whoa! Alright then. That was below the 500 meters. That immediately deployed and screwed everything over really hard. Okay, 8 meters to go. No, 60 meters to go. We're going at 8 meters per second. There is the surface. I think we have a better shot just the Kerbal. Let go. Oh yeah! Shipwrecked on Venus. Holy shit. That's not great. That's not great. And apparently the sea on Venus is really, really bouncy. At least as far as air intakes are concerned. Alright then. I don't know what to call this mission. It's definitely not a success. But Bad Bus is the first down on Venus and he's still alive. Even though this is a weird sea and he's never ever going home again. I think we can safely say that. Also, I've given up on landing on Venus. This would have been a sort of success had we found land, but the atmosphere and the mod interactions with that and the weight, the sheer horrifying weight. I tried to spare you some of it, but it's I've literally spent several hours waiting for stuff to fall through the atmosphere because I deployed a parachute at an inopportune moment. Damn it. Yeah, we did Venus. Screw Venus. See you next time.